Hey, we're alive. Had a little problem with the program. I turned the mic and camera off and couldn't figure out how to get this dadgum thing working again. Finally figured it out. I meant to start broadcasting this right before the short I advertised. By the way, Scooter had him at the vet today, and he has gained about 2 pounds since I found out he had cancer. We have him on exercise, getting him extra food. Got some information on something that's supposed to be good for dogs. I think it's called mushroom powder or something. But anyway, let's get back here. What we could do today is on Gary Cooper. I'm doing this for a friend of mine. Name is Jim. And when he did High Noon, which he got an Academy Award for, 20 years ago, my buddy Jim told me he'd seen it over 24 times. And it's a great movie. It's um, Grace Kelly was in there, and it was just a nail biter all the way to the very end. Lloyd Bridges, just a wonderful cast in there. But let's talk a little bit about Gary Cooper's early life. He was born Francis James Cooper, born in 1901 in Montana. Unfortunately, he died early in life by nowadays standards. 1961 is when he died. And he died of cancer. It went through his whole body and the bones, and it just wasn't possible to operate on him anymore. Now, his mother wanted him and his brother to have a good education. So they were educated in England. And for a long time, he had an English accent. We come to know him with that slow drawl of his, and much like Jimmy Stewart, which him and Jimmy and John Wayne were good friends. Now, what they don't always say, because he always plays the He-Man, and he had a reason for doing that. Um, he felt that exemplified the pioneers and paid tribute to them, but, coming across the country and fighting drought and plagues, famine, Indians, outlaws, diseases. And he kind of thought that paid, give them some of the respect that was due to them. So he liked playing the strong, hard man, deliberate, uh, pick yourself, brush yourself off, and go at him again type of guy. Um, but when, as a young man, he was in a car accident, and when he got well, he had to go into massage, and after that, they sent him back to Montana to ride horses for therapy. And what I meant to say on this, um, that plagued him all of his life. And after he make a cowboy movie, he have to go see a chiropractor and get his back in shape. Although he did love animals, some of the westerns that he's associated with is, of course, High Noon. And High Noon deserves some of our time because the in those days cowboy movies always had a little song to start. Frankie Lane did a lot of them, but in High Noon, that was done by Tex Ritter, and that became a song that every cowboy and every uh, country music singer wants to be able to play. And let's see, another western was "The Hanging Tree," and that was sung by Frankie Lane. I can't read my own notes here. And Frankie Lane, I think, also sang "The Gunfight, the OK Corral," sang "Rawhide," and well, a couple of the other movies that he made I really liked was about Sergeant York. And Sergeant York, born in Tennessee, and Sergeant York was a man of high principles. He would not accept money from the movie studio to do his life story. He felt it wasn't right to make money off of the privilege of serving your government, and that's a long distance from the way people think nowadays. And Gary Cooper was the only one he would accept to play his story. And it was a brilliant movie. I just watched it again the other day on television and um, watched him go over the hills and some of the anecdotes in the movie, and I'm sure it's true. Um, Sergeant York would be in a foxhole and he would gobble like a turkey. And when the Germans would stick their head up to see what that was, he'd knock them off with his rifle. And he captured the most amount of prisoners in the history of warfare, single-handed. Now, in early days, he started out as a stuntman and working with horses and stunts. But they finally got him into the silent movies. He goes back at 4, really does. He goes back at 4. And when the talkies came along, they were pretty impressed with him. And Paramount gave Gary Cooper a 5-year contract with a stupendous amount of money, mind-boggling, $175 a week. We talk about inflation. His first hit was the Virginia in 1929. He had a wide range. He did some Ernest Hemingway um, movies. Ernest Hemingway was a prolific writer, and him and Gary became good friends. But they converted some of his novels into movies: Farewell to Arms and To Whom the Bells Toll, all written by Ernest Hemingway. The Westerner is another one of my favorite Gary Cooper movies. He's just the typical gullible cowboy, goes into a saloon, and Walter Brennan playing Judge Roy Bean. Now, they embellished this quite a lot, took a lot of liberties. In real life, and I've been to the judge's courthouse in Langtree, Texas. But he never really hung anybody. He hung one time himself, but it didn't take. But they had some neat scenes in there. First of all, he was accused of stealing this guy's horse. And they go out there and they ask the cowboy says, "Are you my horse?" The horse goes up and down. My horse does that. It's an easy trick to teach a horse. Just get a pocket full of treats and take a little nail or pen and kind of hit them underneath their on their chest. When they reach down to see if it's a fly, you give them a treat, and that's how you teach them to do that. But I like the scene at the bar. He was going to get hung, and he picked up a Judge Roy Bean was so in love with Lillian Langtry, and her nickname was Jersey Lily. Now that part of the story is true. Well, he idolized her. That was his um, number one attachment in life. So Gary Cooper suggested to Judge Roy Bean that he had a lock of Lily Langtry's hair. At that point, the whiskey came out, and this whiskey was strong. It was when he poured it, because he was so intrigued with the that he's going to be able to see the lock of Lily Langtry's hair. They overpoured the whiskey in the shot glass, and it went on the bar. And right away, the varnish on the bar started bubbling away. And Gary Cooper asked the judge, says, "What do you call this stuff?" He says, "I call it rub of the brush." Eventually, they had a gunfight. You're going to have to see the movie. I'm not going to tell you how it ends. But Gary Cooper played a lot of other movies with Walter Brennan. One is Sergeant York, which, like I said, was one of my great movies I liked. I think another movie that really was chiseled into time is The Pride of the Yankees about Lou Gehrig and the Lou Gehrig disease. Now, Gary Cooper was really more of a cowboy. He didn't know much about baseball, and they had to give him quite a few lessons and to teach him about baseball and what to look like. But by the end of when Showtime got around, he'd capture the movements, and um, people nowadays always mimic his speech of Lou Gehrig. Uh, Today, I'm the proudest man on the face of this earth to be alive. I'm paraphrasing it. Um, Also, another historical movie he did was the court martial of Billy Mitchell, and the colonel got court-martialed, and um, at that time the Navy had a hard time um, in the Air Force preventing the Army bigwigs that naval bombardment, dropping bombs from airplanes, was very practical and good movie. Now, this is something that also is chiseled in time. Another one of his cowboys, a guy with a slow drawl, sitting tall in the saddle. Along Came Joan. It was a comedy, sort of, but the song, it became a song by the Coasters. Along Came Joan. Now, for you older people, you can remember that when, like, I think the line went, he tied her up on the railroad track, and the guy says, and then he did this, and then go, there along came Joan. That was a big movie when I was a kid. Not a big movie, big song. Now, he was plagued with bad health. I mean, even though he showed the man stronger than life. For example, he had ulcers. Of course, we had the back problem. We talked about that. And eventually, because he smoked, I believe that would be the case, he caught cancer and died. Let's see. He produced some movies, had his own production company for a while. And I can remember, and I read the book by Garry Cooper. I'll try to get the name of it. I lost the book. But it's really good. And he was a gentleman. Respect for everybody. But they came to him with a dress. You got to remember in those days when this movie was made, you could buy a hamburger for 15 cents. And they showed one dress that the star was going to wear. It cost $8, but they recommended the one that cost $14 because it would last longer and do this and do that. And Garry Cooper said, "We're only going to use it once." He bought the $8 dress. Then another time when he was making a movie, he called the director and he says, he just asked, we'll just use his name, director, and how's this going, how that's going, what are we doing next? Short conversation. He puts down the phone and he smiles and he says, "I love giving those guys hell." So that was a very great guy. Now, he got a couple Academy Awards, and he got one for what he contributed to Hollywood, but Jimmy Stewart had to accept that award for him. And I guess it was because he had bad health, and Jimmy Stewart had to hold the chairs back. And so we've talked about 14 minutes now, and they've been playing some of Garry Cooper's movies on television, Turner Classic Movies, which I like. And great man, great gentleman, very humble, like Jimmy Stewart and Randolph Scott. And so this is Cowboy Ron saying so long to the next time. We're going to be doing more of the Happy Trails to the West series. I got one really coming up special, but it's going to take a little more time. Now, generally speaking, I try to only talk about people and places that I've either read about or have actually been to. So good night and see you later.